I love beadwork. I like its sensuousness. I like touching beadwork. I like touching beads in general. They say touch me. That's why I love the prayer beads. And I think probably the use of beads in prayer beads is the most perfect use of beads. The original prayer beads probably came from the Hindu. The Buddhists had them. The Arabs may have picked it up from their Asian neighbors. The original rosary is believed to have been, in Christianity, a pile of stones for saying the prayers. And then the stones got too unwieldy, and it was a lot easier to carry something in your hand to mark your prayers. The ancient Afghanistan agate, the makers had such an extraordinary way of working within the banded patterns to get the shape of their bead. There's something also about the polish that was on the ancient stones that was so beautiful. And there's something very exciting about touching the polish and knowing that that same polish was touched by somebody 4,000 years ago. This is an example. These Afghanistan beads are a perfect example of where, as contrasted to the large agates we just saw, which indicated status, it's status by wasting a lot of material to make these minute little beads, some of them less than a millimeter in diameter. And lapis was one of the great gems. The blue of lapis was one of the coveted materials in the ancient world, and Afghanistan had it. No one else did. Afghanistan beads also went down to Egypt. And by the way, there was always status connected to importing materials. Anybody could pick up something in the local environment, but when you had it from a far distance, that became a source of great prestige. The Egyptians had beads from all over. Absolutely everybody in Egypt, you have the impression, was loaded with beads of one material or another. Again, they were wrapped around the vulnerable parts of the body. The neck, the joints of the body, the waist. They had such a love of beads that they invented materials to emulate the stone that not everyone could own, and that was faience, which was a glazed substance that became absolutely an Egyptian specialty to imitate precious stones in affordable ways for the masses. This layered necklace is Samburu. And in Kenya, in fact, in much of Africa, a beautiful girl is defined by how many beads she has, and her beauty in itself makes the men give her the gifts of beads. So this particular necklace is gifts from her father, her boyfriends. Very often beads were used by nomadic people on the move, and therefore the rounded shape lent itself so easily, without protrusions, to movement. So you see some of the great beadwork done by many of the great migratory cultures. The Naga beadwork was so strong, so powerful. It's almost all gone today, but the old 19th century beadwork, the beads came from India. The bone spacers, of course, were local. The bells came probably up from India. They would dance in these beads for hours and hours. If you notice, it's just the sensuous way they would hang on the women's chests, the bold layering. Naga land, by the way, is in the India-Burma border. North American Indians had a lot of different types of beads before the Europeans came here. They were, of course, many kinds of seeds. Shell was a very, very big material. The thing about beads and little glass beads, which got introduced to indigenous cultures with the Europeans, is they were much less intensive units to work with than making little shell beads, little stone beads, little copper beads. So colored beads, little glass beads, became a natural way to decorate a surface. They had teepees, of course, but they didn't have homes to decorate, so they decorated themselves, they decorated their clothing, they decorated their horses, and beads were a very big component of this. One of the materials that, along with coral and amber, should really be emphasized with beads is turquoise, because any culture that's had turquoise seems to revere it. Our American Indians, Native Americans, it's a very revered stone, very important in beads. Amber, of course, is 30 million years old. It has been idolized by every culture that's ever come in contact with it. The Greeks thought of it as frozen sunlight. The other cultures have thought of it as frozen sperm. I mean, it has a marvelous history. I think its appeal is it's warm. Unlike, for instance, glass, which can be quite cold, or stone, which can be cold. It's physically warm when you're wearing it, which is very pleasant. It has an incredible patina and many depths and layers within the material itself. And its color is just so flattering and so spectacular. And amber is the liquefied resin of pine trees that hardened. And it's, of course, it's a fossil sap. If you want to smell it and have it smell like the ancient pine resin it is, you put a little heated needle in there and you smell it, and true amber still has that pine smell. And it's, for me, quite remarkable that 30 million years later, the smell is still there. There is bead work that I am particularly excited about and love from Indonesia, which grows out of a textile heritage. You see the way they use their beads in a very luxurious manner, with the patterns having very deep connection to their textiles. This little splayed figure, it goes back to splitting an animal skin in half, has a very, very ancient heritage. It's found also all through Native America, as are the little antler headdresses, which indicated oneness with animals. This is Heelvink Bay in New Guinea. This apron, again, grows out of textile patterns and iconography that was very important to the culture, transferred into beads. All of the ethnic art that you wear, for instance, marks tribal identity, marks a person's culture or background. It's no different with somebody in Paris than somebody in the Sahara. You are telling people who you are, what you value, what you think is aesthetic. There really is a wonderful movement of contemporary glass bead making now, and there are several centers where it's being taught. And the bead makers generally are tending to think of the beads as works of art rather than as seed beads to be combined in bead work. It's made them a little difficult to string in necklaces by and large for that reason, because each bead is so spectacular. I think from this timeline you can see the variety, the extraordinary variety of beads that have gone throughout history, which brings up something that I guess I really care about with beads, that they're connecting. And in a time in the world where so much seems to be going in diverse directions and there's such an emphasis on differences, I love the humanity and the common threads that tie bead work together, that tie beads together. And I suppose the beads that I feel the most for are those with usually some sort of history, where I can learn about them and connect into something bigger than the little bead.